Talking Comfort Live, a show that reminds us just how cool HVAC can be by discussing today's hot topics in home comfort. From learning to laughing and sharing personal experiences to challenging the leading industry narratives, our show goes deep inside the world of mini splits, heat pumps, and the inverter technology that brings efficient comfort to our products. And you can help us in our quest to make HVAC cool. We're looking for you to be a part of the show. If you have a question, whether it centers around application or installation, preventative maintenance, troubleshooting, a future technology, or anything we share on the show, please send it our way. We might take it live. Now grab a bucket and take a break. It's time for Talking Comfort Live.
With me today is Justin Salisbury.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone.
And we got Daniel Hamrick.
Good afternoon.
We have Greg Bruntz.
Afternoon, everyone.
And last but not least, we have Jesus Fraga.
Good afternoon, everybody.
So why do we do Talking Comfort? We've all been in your chair or bucket or seat of your service truck or whatever. If you've watched these for a while, you've heard this spiel before. But we've been there. We've all done the job. We've all, been on hot rooftops, cold rooftops, attics, basements. We've crawled through stuff that we couldn't identify. There's all kinds of stuff. We've all been there at one time or another. So we do like to take the opportunity to share some of that experience with you guys, but along with talking about our equipment and the expertise that we have for this, for GREE, our specific brand. That's why we do it. We're just trying to get people to learn about inverter-driven equipment all the way around. Let us know if you'll be in Orlando for the show. I think we'll even have a mic for you, so you might be able to ask the questions live in front of everyone. So if you like that idea, we'll give you the opportunity, but we might give you some coaching beforehand. Okay, this is going out to everybody. All right, so you have questions and we have opinions, so please, just like in the past, submit at any time. Use the question mark icon to the right of the screen. We'll be checking throughout the show and we'll get to as many questions as we possibly can. So let's start talking comfort. Let's begin by going straight to our misnometer. Let's see, our first misnometer is reading, it can't be a refrigerant leak. The A2L detector didn't go off. So anybody want to start with that? Will the A2L sensor be the leak detector for you? Does it have to be the thing that goes off to indicate a leak?
Well, I would say no. You could very well have a leak on that machine and it never set off that leak detector. Especially if you think about mini splits and when in cooling mode, the fan never shuts off. So it's constantly moving some air. So if you got a little bitty leak, it's going to dissipate away. We're never going to reach the concentration level to set off that sensor. Justin, I think you know what that concentration level is.
Yeah, it's a concentration of 10% or more. So if it never reaches that 10% concentration threshold, that sensor will never trip. And like you said, Greg, that fan is constantly running. So if you get just a small pinhole leak and that fan continues to run, that refrigerant will be quickly dissipated and out of there. It'll never reach the concentration level. And you'll never know that you had a leak, until you get the refrigerant leak detection alarm on the outdoor unit.
Well, and then if you look at the location of the A2L sensors, like on the mini splits, it's all the way on that far right-hand side of the coil. Mm-hmm. So if you got a little pinhole leak on the far left-hand side of the coil in the U-bend or something, even it may not pick that up at all.
Yeah. And it has to be in the indoor unit. If it's in the line set or in the outdoor unit, there's no sensor in there. So again, it'll never go off if it's not at the indoor unit right there where the sensor can detect it.
Well, if you think about with the flex it's way down by the drain pan. It's still on the coil, but it's way down by the drain pan. And that's strategically placed like that because refrigerant's heavier than air. So it would fall. But if the fan's running, you got a leak at a small spot at the top of the coil, unless it's a leak enough that it actually gives you that concentration level, it's not going to set it off. If it's in a flare connection outside that machine, it probably definitely isn't going to pick it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, we never see any kind of leaks at the flare, right? Nobody ever sees that. No, I mean, we see that pretty often. And I mean, That would also indicate the original purpose of the A2L sensor is, the thought is that the leak would occur inside an enclosed area, like a cabinet of an air handler. Not a wall mount that's mounted on the wall, that kind of thing. But it's a blanket thing. We have to include these A2L sensors across the board, right? As long as there's enough refrigerant to qualify to be required to have an A2L sensor. So yeah, if you've got a flare connection outside, it's leaking. Never going to see that leak. So if you're expecting the A2L leak detection sensor to be what would indicate a leak, it may not. I guess
So you could very well go to that job site. That unit can be completely out of gas, never set off the alarm. You could go out to the job site and, just have a partial loss of charge and never set off the alarm. So our leak detection, what we've always done to locate leaks and stuff like that, none of that's going to change. You're still going to have to perform leak checks on these units when you do have a system that's low on refrigerant.
Yeah, and to be clear too, because you found a leak, it doesn't mean that the detector isn't working. So that, we'll go ahead and throw that one out there as well. So if we start seeing a whole bunch of A2L sensors getting replaced, it may be because they didn't watch the video. Where we're talking about this and going, just because you had a leak doesn't mean that it's going to pick it up. You know that you've used a leak detection sensor before to spot leaks, and you're not picking up the leak until you get over there to the leak. It's the same thought process.
Well, I think that's also it's important you said that, James, because it comes back to contractors need to be able to educate their homeowners. If they have a system that's low on charge, and make sure that they can, relate to them to tell them, well, that doesn't mean your sensor's bad. It just means the leak couldn't be picked up or the concentration level was never met for it to set off the alarm.
Right. And just
as ease a little bit.
And just as a review, if you don't know what the leak detection sensor does, if it does detect a concentration of 10%, it brings the blower motor on to help dissipate it. So like to Greg's original point where the mini split doesn't shut off the fan motor while it's in cooling, it's technically already dissipating it, right? So it's already doing the job. Like what you don't have on a typical air handler is that blower motor running all the time. Unless somebody messes with your thermostat, the blower doesn't run all the time, right? So you could end up with that concentration and all the rest of the inside that what should be a sealed, container, right? That should be, not everybody's is, right? But it should be a sealed container, and it's to reduce that concentration. If we reduce the concentration, we lower the its ability to ignite, right?
But even with GREE equipment, if they use a 24-volt adapter and use a 24-volt thermostat, giving that thing a hard shut off, now you're more susceptible in cooling mode for it to actually give you a leak detection sensor going off with a leak versus it using a GREE control and cooling mode and the fan running continuously. So it's all how you got to think about it, right? How does it work? What does this control do versus that control, stuff like that.
Right. Just as a reminder, as we're talking about this, I think we're probably going to get a fair amount of input from, maybe some more questions around this. The question mark icon on the right of the screen would be a great place to go ahead and click and submit your question. Use that opportunity. Yeah, I think those are all really good points. I still like to reiterate the wall mount sitting in the open air, and how it's not likely to get a refrigerant concentration high enough to bring that on, even if the blower was off. You've got a coil.
Right.
You've seen a mini split. You've got a coil that's basically sitting out there in the open. I don't know that you're going to be able to have a leak large enough to be able to build the concentration in it high enough in order to trip that sensor. We'll see, but we definitely have we have that option for for safety. Let's see here. Yeah, and so if we did have a leak outside, right? We don't have an A2L sensor outside anyway, right? But you're also outside in the environment, so the refrigerant concentration is also going to be less there as well, right? Wind and all the rest of that. But all right, do we have any questions currently?
Well, there's no current questions.
Okay. All right.
But we lost feed for a little while, so people are trying to get back in. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now I'd like to send it over to Justin for a sneak peek into some of the product news we'll be covering at AHR. And don't forget to register to tune in to our live Talking Comfort live show from Orlando. Justin, take it away.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Justin Salisbury, Senior Director of Product. Today I'm going to go over some of the R32 equipment that we have available. And with AHRI coming up next month, we just want to give a quick review of the equipment and kind of give you an idea of what to expect at the AHR show. I'm beginning with our top of the line product in R32. We have our Sapphire. That is our high efficiency model. Proud to announce that with the release of this new R32 equipment, we can get up to 30 SEER 2, which is one of the highest SEER models available in the industry. That's going to be available in a high wall from 9K up through 24K in 230 volt. And we also want to point out with the new R32 version of this, we can get the ultra heat down to minus 22 Fahrenheit. And we can also do cooling all the way up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. And then for low ambient cooling, we can go down as far as negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So really great product that we've released. And if you join us at the AHR show, you're going to find out a little bit more about the new compressor technology that we've added into the Sapphire that we're very, very proud of. Moving on to our mid-tier product, the Vireo, we can get up to 26 SEER 2. It's available from 9K through 24K and the 230 volt models. And just like the Sapphire, we can get heating capacity down to negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. And we can do cooling all the way up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. And then low ambient cooling down to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a new product that we've introduced. This is our Invo. This is a mid-tier product. Performance very similar to the Vireo. But what makes this difference from the Vireo is that it has a fresh air kit that can be installed in the field. And this will allow you to bring in fresh air into a room or an office or gym space. And what's great about the fresh air kit is it's not just a standard ventilation kit or something you hook a piece of ductwork up to bring in unconditioned outside air. This is pretty much a mini HRV that bolts onto the side of the unit. So you're going to have some thermal exchange and some humidity exchange going on inside that fresh air kit. So that way you're not just bringing in unconditioned air into a space. I know down in the South especially, just dumping in very hot, very moist air into a space is certainly a concern, but you don't have to worry about that with our Invo product. Now with this, again, very similar to the Vireo, you're getting up to 26 SEER 2. It's available in 9K through 24K models. Heating capacities are the same, heating down to negative 22, cooling all the way up to 122 degrees, and it also has the low ambient performance for cooling. And then you're also going to see the smart humidity control in this. So that way, again, we're not worried about bringing in too much humidity into a space. Here's our all match indoor units. And some of you are already kind of familiar with these. In the past, they were really restricted to just either multi-zone or being compatible with our Vireo mid-tier product line. But moving forward, we're opening up this product line to match it in a one-to-one with Sapphire, Vireo, and Invo. And of course, we can do multi-zone up to 5 zones. And so the indoor style units you're going to look at are the cassette, slim duct, console, floor ceiling, and the one-way cassette. And with the all match version of these, you're going to have the 9K through the 24K models. And again, because you're hooking it up to a Vireo, Invo, or a Sapphire outdoor unit, you get the same heating and cooling performance that those models brought with the high walls. Levo, this is our entry tier product, one of the most efficient and best performing entry tier products in the market. We can get up to 19 SEER 2. It is available in 230 volt from 9K through 36K models, and then in 115 volt in 9K through 12K models. Again, though, because it's an entry tier product, you're only going to get that heating capacity down to negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit and cooling all the way up to 115 and then down to negative 4. So it's not going to have as good low ambient cooling performance as the other products. Now here are the all match units for the Levo. I know when I talked about the other all match units, I'm sure the question came up in your head, What about the Levo? Why can't we match it with Levo? Well, here's what we have in the Levo. For the 30K and 36K models of the high wall cassette, slim duct, etc., you're going to use a Levo outdoor unit for those. Again, reason for that is because those are the only 30 and 36K models we have available in the Levo product. Now moving on to multi-zone. This is the basic multi-zone product available in 18 through 42K models. It is compatible with high wall, cassette, slim duct, floor ceiling, floor console, pretty much all the all match units that you saw. And this version will provide heating down to -22, cooling down to -2, and then all the way up to 118 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, very, very strong multi-zone product. And here's our R32 Flex product. This is the centrally ducted, unitary split that we have. Initially, it is available now in 2, 3, 4, and 5 tons. And we will be releasing a 1.5 ton version within the next few months. So just stay tuned on that. One of the upgrades we made with the R32 version is that it's not just 24-volt communication. If you're pairing the Flex outdoor unit with a Flex indoor unit, you can use the GREE controller with the RS485 communication, and then you'll actually have a communicating system between the indoor and outdoor. So a bit of an upgrade as far as the control, providing some variable speed capabilities on the indoor unit with that RS485 that you don't get with the 24-volt communication. But other than that, as usual, it's going to be an inverter-driven outdoor unit. You're going to have up front the air handler options. We're working on the case A2L options for R32. Those will be released later this year. You're going to get up to 17 SEER2, down to -22 degrees heating, and cooling down to 5, and then up to 129 degrees Fahrenheit. Initially, you're going to see the SKUs being kind of more expanded with a dedicated 2, 3, 4, and 5 ton outdoor unit. We're working on reverting that back to the original Flex in that you're going to have 2 outdoor units. It'll be a 2, 3, and then a 4/5, and you'll switch the capacities with a dip switch on the outdoor unit. So that'll be coming here in a couple months. But for right now, on the Flex Ultra R32, you're just going to see the dedicated sizes on the outdoor units for now. And again, as always, I know I talked about the communication with the GREE controller, but as always, that Flex outdoor unit uses 24 volts, and it can be paired, with any proper indoor piece of equipment. All right, now I'll talk briefly about the coming soon products. You're definitely going to see some of these at the AHRI show. Next month, we're looking to release our Flex Eco. So we're working on all of our literature and information for that. Hope to have that posted by the end of the month. We're going to see that in the 2, 3, 4, and 5 ton. And then you're also going to have 2.5 and 3.5 ton sizes. So with the Flex Eco, you're going to be able to get those 1/2 ton sizes to better suit the product for certain applications. And in the past, this product was a lower SEER model. But as you can see by the numbers, depending on the size, we can go anywhere from 16.5 to 18 SEER2. And the reason for that is the Eco model is no longer the step down in SEER rating. It's more geared towards the southern market and hitting those tax credit qualifications through CEE. So we just made it a higher efficiency piece of equipment to meet those qualifications. But because it is designed for the South, you won't have the ultra heat like you do on the Flex Ultra. So this won't go down to the -22 degrees Fahrenheit. You're looking at more about a -4 degree heating capacity. All right. And around summer, we're also hoping to release our new all-match vertical air handler. So this would fall into the all-match models of equipment that will go with a 1-to-1 ductless or, the multi-zone unit. This gives us options for vertical air handlers for those customers who need them. And that will be available in 1 through 3 tons. And again, we're looking to release that in summer. Currently don't have any other information on that as of right now. The X-Pack will be releasing this sometime in Q1, probably towards the end of Q1. You're going to see the 2, 3, 4, and 5 ton X-Pack available in the R32. Multi-Pro, any of you are familiar with the EPA Technology Transitions Program, there's some questions around VRF, and then it kind of split out between single phase and three phase. With the single phase multi-pro, all of that had to change this year to R32. So we're releasing that new R32 product. We're getting more information on that, every day. We should start being able to create more literature, get more information out to the customers, and let you know exactly when that'll be available for order. But right now, we do have plenty of 410A product in stock. So if you need that, we got you covered. What we're looking at here on the R32 product is your standard heat pump in a 2, 2.5, 3, 4, and 5 tons. You're going to have an ultra heat pump in 3, 4, and 5 ton. And then, of course, you're going to have all the standard indoor units, wall mounted cassette, one-way cassette, ducted console, fresh air, etc. And then we're also working on our dual fuel A coil for multi-pro and R32. It's still under development, but again, as of right now, we do have those available in the R410A version if you need something for dual fuel as of right now. The top discharge three-phase VRF, again, as I've talked about in the past, this is not going to change until the end of the year. On the three-phase, it's been given more time to develop on the R32 side. So for right now, this year, all of you are pretty much just going to see the 410A models pushing through. And as always, the best place for information is our website, www.greecomfort.com. I know there's a lot of changing things going on right now, a lot of information being thrown out there. So please, please, please always check our website for new information comes out. And anytime something new gets released or posted, it's going to go on the website. So just keep an eye on that. All right, that's all I've got. Thank you for joining us. And as always, if you have any questions, product related or anything else, please feel free to click the icon, enter your question in the box, and we'll be glad to answer your question if we get some time.
I appreciate that, Justin. How about the rest of the group? You got any more additional comments you'd like to make on the on our new products?
Well, we did have a question come in, James, asking about the mini floor consoles. Will they be an all match at any point? Justin, do you know?
Yeah, so we're currently working on that. We understand that in a lot of applications, the mini console is preferred to, say, the floor ceiling, just because it has a better footprint. It fits in more places, more reminiscent of like an old radiator. So I know with the previous versions where they just matched up to the Vireo, that was not an option. So with the new all match moving forward, we're working with the factory to get the engineers to understand the market, get those rated. So hopefully before too long, we're going to have all those done. So yes, the plan is to get those rated with all match.
That's going to be great. I have had a lot of customers ask about the mini floor console.
Yeah, and the fact is, we still see a lot of pictures of wall mount sitting 6 inches off the floor. So just to let you know, we have a unit that's perfect. That's perfect for the knee wall application. So I mean, if you're going to put a wall mount 6 inches from the floor, let it say something else besides GREE on it. I'm just kidding. Don't do that at all. I don't care what brand it is. Don't do that. It doesn't work well. Putting a wire controller on it doesn't correct it. Trying to do a remote sensor for a different brand doesn't correct it. They're not designed to be sitting 6 inches off the floor, right? So mini floor console is definitely something to use. We also have the console available in multi-pro as well. We have any more comments about that? I mean, I think I'll have a comment on this. I mean, I think that we have some potential for the fresh air intake, on commercial job sites. I can't really think of anybody who's got, maybe Justin knows, I can't think of anybody who's got a fresh air option on a wall mount unit as far as a built-in function. I didn't seal up the hole behind the unit as a fresh air intake, like an actual, unit that would be designed for fresh air. Do you know of anybody else? I think that's a unique offering for us.
Honestly, with high walls, I'm not familiar with anyone else doing any kind of, mini ERV like we're doing with a high wall. I think there's some companies out there that will have a fresh air duct kit, but it's more or less a knockout that you attach a duct to and just hope you're getting enough pull from that blower to pull in the fresh air from the outside. And then again, it's not being tempered in any way. You're just pulling in straight outside air. But at least with our kit, you're going to have some thermal exchange going on between the intake and the exhaust. And the cube inside also has desiccant in it, so you're going to get some dehumidification as you pull in that outside air. So I think moving forward, we're providing a pretty good solution.
I think in a lot of applications, one of the biggest sellers in the mini split world now is a lot of people are adding mini splits for their garages, and I think that would be an excellent option for a garage, even on at a homeowner's house. Having that air exchange from outside in the garage to me would be an ideal situation for one of those systems.
Definitely.
Yeah. I know that especially in the winter, my garage door gets closed a little too fast after my wife parks in it. So I mean, having some fresh air exchange might be beneficial all the way around. But plus, it can help. It could help reduce like odors and stuff like that. I could see that. So I mean, like our friends in humid areas or in very cold areas, we've seen where bringing in untempered fresh air is just not a great option. But also. We've seen that with package units and stuff like that too, where they just continue the blower to run, and you've got these wild temperature swings, or it's humid outside, therefore it's humid inside, stuff like that. So having that desiccant material available in the cube could really help out on tempering that air. So any other questions that have come up that you guys see on there? Well, if there's no questions so far, just as a reminder, go ahead and hit the question mark icon to the right of your screen and submit opinions, comments, questions, whatever you'd like to say. We may not read it, but whatever you want to say. Go ahead.
We did have one come in, James. It's do you have high wall mini splits for deep south use that meet the tax credit requirements that are available now? Not exactly sure on that, but I can tell you, going to the website and looking under rebates, you can check through that portal and see what models meet what rebates in your area. Is that correct, Justin?
Yeah. So I believe he's referring to the 25C, Section 25C of the Inflation Reduction Act, which works with CEE, or Consortium for Energy Efficiency. There are certain program guidelines out there to meet those tax credits. I believe in the South, you're hitting like CEE Tier 2. We do have products that can meet the specifications. Currently, we're in the process of working with the factory to get everything uploaded in AHRI. We're updating all of our AHRI information. And we're working with our eco rebates team, which kind of works on that database that we have on our website to ensure that all the information is up to date. So right now there may be some missing equipment from the rebate website that we have on greecomfort.com. But I'm hoping hopefully before the end of the month, all that will be updated. So you'll be able to go on there and see all the equipment that can qualify for tax credits. And a great thing about that eco rebates page on our site is it just doesn't look at tax credits, the federal tax credits. You put in your zip code on that site, and it will also search for energy rebates that are local to you. So if a local energy company or whoever's putting out a rebate there, that should also pop up.
So in reference to the tax credit, from the IRA or the excuse me, from the IRA or from 25C. So if you're not in an area that has additional rebates, like from utility companies, like Justin was talking about, or from city governments or something, or a state, we have many products that do qualify for the IRA and 25C, from unitary style equipment to wall mounts to just about anything that you could want. Is there any other questions on there?
That's it for now, James.
Okay. All right. So we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to go to one of our favorite segments is stay heated or chill out. As we're going through this, please vote in the same place you ask questions. Type stay heated or chill out, and we'll add them up by the end of the show. So we're going to catch up with JD from down at our train facility in Atlanta and see what is stuck in his crawl. JD, what's on your mind?
You know what grinds my gears is when contractors call into tech support and they've been waiting for 20, 30 minutes for us. They don't even have their gauges hooked up, don't even have a meter out, and we're like, let's get some readings. Oh, let me go to my van and get that. I had a contractor call in, and he said the same thing. He said, well, I don't have anything set up. I said, what have you been doing for 20, 30 minutes? He said, drinking coffee with the homeowner. So I'm curious to see what you guys think, but should I stay heated or chill out? I think I'm going to stay heated.
Okay, I just got to say, the way he grabbed that wrench was a little bit threatening. So, I'll say from my experience in tech support, I would say stay heated. It's still an air conditioner, it's still an air conditioner. It still has the rules that an air conditioner or heat pump has. So, it needs refrigerant, for example. So, there are times when people wait for a significant amount of time to get an answer back or a call back, and it's out of refrigerant. But, could have known that by simply hooking up a gauge to find out, or I don't know, verifying power is on, stuff like that. Not from you guys, but from your competition out there. They do that all the time.
So, in JD's defense, after when he recorded that to be able to talk about this, it was right after we did a live broadcast and we talked about mini splits, multi-zone mini splits, and we had piping diagrams up, and we talked about the basic rules of refrigeration and air conditioners, that you have to have a compressor, a metering device, an indoor coil, and an outdoor coil. And then we took it into the mini split piping to say, okay, we have all those same components. We're just elaborating on it a little bit. It's still an air conditioner. So I think that kind of rolled with him into his stay heated comment there, because whether it's a mini split or not, it's still an air conditioner. So I'm gonna go with stay heated.
I really I enjoy, especially all the time that Greg and I have spent down there, doing videos and doing quick tip videos and training and virtual training, all the things that we've done down there, and just seeing JD, that was his kind of inaugural launch into, hey, here you go. And I love his passion, that he brought with him to do that video. That was really cool. But I I understand. I happen to live in the South, in South Carolina, and in the wintertime it's not really a big deal. But if somebody's drinking some coffee, staying warm while they're waiting on a callback, I'm not gonna fault them for it. But yeah, you need to you need to at least get your tool bag out and be ready, So I'm gonna stay heated with him on that one.
How about Jesus? What do you want to say there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to stay heated for sure. It really doesn't matter whether you're at a house, especially at a building. You're on a roof, you don't have your tools on you. It's like, well, I'll call you back in 20 minutes whenever you're go to your truck, come back, hook up, and then we'll pick up from there. So definitely stay heated on that. You gotta be prepared and ready for anything.
Right. Last but not least, Mr. Salisbury. What's your opinion on that?
Well, honestly, I think I'd agree with the group. I think you should stay heated. At the end of the day, the contractor is supposed to be the expert. They're the ones installing the product. They're servicing it. They're getting paid for that. Calling in and expecting us to walk you through step by step and train you on the job is probably a little unrealistic. We're there for advisors. So if you run into a problem you can't figure out, call in, ask. We'll do what we can to help you. But at the end of the day, if you just want to sit around and drink coffee with the homeowner and wait for us to do the work for you, I'm probably not gonna go far in the industry.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's where I said the trainings we offer is to try to get guys educated to the equipment so they know how to troubleshoot it when they get there. So you got to get involved. You got to learn the equipment. If you're going to install it and sell it, you should know how to work on
it. Yeah, and it's always good to, maybe for some of the younger folks out there that are really trying to haul butt. I can say I've ran into a couple calls where, especially when I was younger, where, it could be fixed really fast. Like oh, I already know what's wrong with it. I changed this out. I'm ready to hit the road and all that. I give them an invoice and they're like, you've been here 15 minutes. How could you possibly charge me how much you're charging me, and, for 15 minutes worth of work? So, if you do take your time, go ahead and check out some things like, if they say it's not cooling properly or whatever, maybe look at the blower wheel, check the filters, do some of that stuff, you know? I mean, really, really make it, it can go a long way to making the customer feel like they're getting, more for their money. And you don't have to go and share a Facebook meme with them that explains that you're getting paid for what you know, not your time on the job. Because, I mean, is that a conversation that you want to have over and over again? Obviously not. Not everybody gets paid for what they know. But, you guys do. And so sometimes spending some time, it, kind of gives them some value for their money. At least it makes them feel that way. Well, let's see. Let's take a look at the totals right now. It says that we are 25 stay heated to 3 chill out, which looks like the latest college football games. 26 to 3 now. I would love to talk to the 3 that say chill out. I'm sure our tech support department will talk to them tomorrow. But I'm just joking. But 27-3, I think, adding hour 6 on there with 33 to 3. I mean, I think it's kind of a blowout, you know. So, good luck next time on the chill out, folks. But yeah, no, I think we all agree. We're all on the same page as far as that goes. So also using the same button, you can continue to ask us questions or leave us comments. All right, so let's take a look at some of the questions that have come in. Do we have any additional questions?
No, I don't think we have.
Or a comment? Is there a comment related to the stay heated or anything on there?
Oh yeah, it says stay heated for no meters, but not for gauges. My last option is putting gauges on a system.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've definitely had that conversation once or twice. I know that people will say, "Hey, you shouldn't even bother putting gauges on it."
Now,
But when it's empty,
Well, the thing is, my opinion, you've got plenty of gauge options now that are, just the wireless or whatever.
yeah,
You're going to have a minimum refrigerant loss. I think that's the reason why people are not wanting to put gauges on.
right.
Put the
Definitely.
gauge on there. You use a low loss gauge to at least get a pressure reading, so
Yeah.
you know where you're at before you start. We talk about that with the FO code. Before you reset that code, put a gauge on there. Know what that off pressure is, because the pressure should be equal to whatever your temperature outside is. If it's not, if that pressure is significantly lower, that's a telltale sign right there that machine's low on refrigerant.
Yeah.
If you reset that air code, start the unit up and let it run for a while, that off pressure is not going to be as accurate anymore. So
Right.
I'm still going to vote for gauge goes on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, I would say from like a maintenance standpoint, I know that too, in some of the training classes and stuff I've been in the past, they'll say don't bother putting gauges on it. And it's like the most literal take on it. But really when it boils down to it, if you think it's leaking or whatever, throwing gauges on it to determine whether or not it's working correctly, like trying to get subcoolant or superheat or whatever, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that's really what the point that people are trying to get across in these training classes or like in trade schools or what have you is that with an inverter driven system, good luck determining whether or not, and we've gone through that before too. I mean, I've only got like a couple clamp on sensors and the system itself has 7, so, how many temperatures are you going to check at once? How are you going to determine what the speed of the compressor is, the fan motor and all the rest of that? How are you going to run those calculations that it's running every 2 or 3 seconds as it's making adjustments. And now you're not going to, but if it's off, you got an error code, especially if that error code relates to refrigerant shortage. Like during the 30-minute wait time, take a look at the website, go to our error code troubleshooting that we've got. We've got a lot of videos related to troubleshooting some of those error codes. If you take a look at those, you will find out really quickly that, hey, an FO code, F big zero, FO code, most often, probably over 99% of the time, it's related to a refrigerant shortage. And, checking out what that standing charge is could be a pretty clear indication,
Well, James, I agree with you on preventive maintenance. No, temperature rise, temperature drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you need to
Delta
do.
T.
If you got a good delta T, you don't need to put gauges on there.
That's a good point. I mean, I guess if you hook up 6-foot hoses, 4 times a year or whatever, it's not going to be long until you do have a refrigerant shortage.
Most certainly.
Especially on a little 9K or 12K single zone unit.
Right. And talking about R32, we're going to have even less refrigerant in these systems, right?
Right.
I believe I learned that from Justin at one point, right? We have a smaller refrigerant charge than we do on 410A. So yeah, I mean, that's only going to get more evident over time. So yeah, if you're doing just a regular run-of-the-mill PM, is it cool? Have you got a complaint? I mean, that's a pretty clear indication. Until somebody's complaining about it, then maybe it's not a problem yet,
That's a good thing too, because you get less refrigerant in the same size can.
You're right.
The price might be cheaper, but you're getting 5 pounds less.
Yeah. All right. Well, do we have any more questions or comments that you guys see on the Q&A part? No?
No.
All right. So now we're going to shift over to a time when we're talking about some of the comments that are on our YouTube videos. So on the hands-on GREE Flex installation and troubleshooting, which is a very popular video, you should totally check that one out. Mooch91 says, can you speak to control strategy on the condensing units? Despite having inverter technology, it seems that these ramp up to max output unit until thermostat is satisfied and they shut off. It's awesome to see 110 degree leaving there, but at the same time, it's crazy to see the condenser pulling 32 amps, 4 to 5 ton. Thought there would be some kind of modulation to achieve a more moderate leaving air temp, trying to understand the best settings when commissioning for efficiency, lower airflow and compressor speeds, longer run times, or higher airflow and compressor speed, shorter run times. Okay. So in relation to the flex unit, seeing it ramp down as it reaches set point, for example, so, based on some of the other information that we give in, related to our flex, there is no way for it to know, right, how close it is to set point. So it doesn't ramp up to its max. It may ramp up to its max, but what it's effectively ramping up to is its capacity. Like when it runs the capacity calculation, it effectively is going to be running at 4 tons or 5 tons at those temperatures and at that airflow. So that is indeed what you will see. But since that is a single stage in terms of 24-volt controls, it just knows that it needs to run. So there's a function of time of it ramping up, but once it does ramp up, it will likely stay at that same speed if those conditions remain the same.
Well, I agree with you, and that's why we've said like MultiPro is fully communicating system. Now it actually sees the room temperature inside. It knows what the set point is, so it can communicate that back to the outdoor board, which is your main board that's controlling operation. And the whole thing that it's doing there is same with the mini split. Now it knows how far away it is, and the machine's going to do everything it can to slow down and not shut off and maintain temperature.
Right.
So you can't get that when you're taking an inverter-driven unit and 24-volt control on it, because now you've lost that set point.
Right.
So the communicating systems where it can see the indoor set point versus coil temp versus outdoor temp is going to be the more efficient system when it comes to an inverter-driven unit.
Right. No, I don't know what else to add to that. Yeah, I mean, if you're wanting the fully modulating capability, no matter what brand you choose, if you're wanting that fully modulating capability, it's going to have to be a communicating system. There is only so much that you can do with a couple of signal wires. I mean, you can, you could have a Y1, Y2 type setup with some systems, and that's going to slow it down. Does it slow it down as much as it ought to? No, of course not. And if you, I've seen attempts at modulating systems like that using like a time, like it runs at a max speed for 30 minutes and slows back down, that kind of thing. You know who complains about that? Customers. That's, so now we're not getting 110 output. It still hasn't reached its set point, but it slows down for no reason at all. And if somebody's got a little bit of a chill, they're monitoring it as best as a homeowner can. So yeah, in the cases of wanting the very best in efficiency, the very best in operational capability, we do have an option that would be, above like a flex system, and that would be our multi-pro system. Anybody
And
else?
just one last thing. So the Flex R32, when it is being sold, if you use the GREE controller, that system's capable of doing 24-volt or the GREE controller. If you want better operation of that unit, use the GREE controller.
Right. And I got to say, somewhat related, we have another comment on a different video, and it's related to the XE72 controller, cross-wire to mispipe mini splits, Flex Eco, R32 A2L update, AI chatbot Q&A. So that's the video title. But from a fellow named, I would assume a fellow, but it's at Famous Dude 1239. Is there AHRI rated evaporator cabinet that can be used with the Flex E Eco outdoor unit and gas furnace? Don't care about the heat pump side. The 7.9 HSPF2 is not allowed in region 4. And the reason why that's said that is somewhat related is that the Flex Eco is the price defender unit among our unitary systems. So asking for a higher efficiency system means that you would have to go for the higher efficiency Flex system in order to get a higher HSPF. And if you needed even higher HSPF, you would go for the multi-pro system that may give you a higher HSPF. So, I mean, it would be no different than saying, why does my Civic not go as fast as the Corvette? So there's going to be a cost associated with all of those features and all of those improvements, that get you to that level. And what you may find, depending on what what rebates may be, it may pay you to go for that, that higher end system.
The rebate may offset that extra cost for the higher efficient unit. Yeah.
Right. In addition to that, in some regions, there has been a drive to push more towards cold climate heat pumps, which, I mean, we're okay with because we do a great job with cold climate heat pumps. And, that's a great idea. And, that honestly, a lot of the conversations that we've had in the past around the rebates and pushing, warm weather heat pumps into places like Minnesota and North Dakota wasn't going to be the answer that they hoped for. So I'm glad that they recognized pretty quickly that they need to push for cold climate heat pumps, and maybe in some cases actually push some of the efficiencies down because they know they're still getting, they're getting the goal of electrification that they're wanting in those areas. Would you like to add anything to that? I mean, I know that sounds maybe a little bit negative, but that's
well, I think
lowest cost thing we have.
I don't think you intend to be negative. It's just it's understanding the product there, and I think there was a misunderstanding to the product on the Flex Eco versus the other machines that we offer. No, we don't offer a different air handler for that, and that's not really going to gain you much. It's based off that outdoor unit. So if you go to the Flex, that's not the Eco, it's going to have a higher HSPF. And then if you go into multi-pro, like you said, you're going to have a match that's going to be giving you even a higher rate.
Now, just kind of rethinking that question a little bit, just from the beginning of the question, it seems like he might be, regardless of HSPF and whatnot and efficiencies, kind of gearing towards he wants to do dual fuel. So there is options for that too.
Yep.
Right. Well, and that's but that's the case. It's like it's like I'm taking some equipment that's capable of providing heat in some of these cold areas. I mean, that's increasingly what we've become known for. So it's like saying I can't sell this heat pump up here because the HSPF is not high enough, but I don't really care about the heat pump portion of it.
Right.
I just want to use the gas furnace. Well, in that case, I mean, we're really good at cold climate heat pumps.
Do you really need a cold climate heat pump?
Switch over to a cold climate heat pump, and then it qualifies, and you're also providing far more dual fuel capability for your customer than giving them the lowest cost unitary piece of equipment that we've got.
Right. Right.
It's an actual dual fuel. I mean, everybody can say they've got dual fuel, but if you can only operate so many months a year, do you really have dual fuel? You know what I mean? If you've got a very short fall and a very short spring, but your winter is super long, is that really dual fuel at that point? No, you're not getting the best of both worlds at all. You're really limiting what your heat pump can do in those regions. Okay. Any other comments? Any questions that we had come in on that?
There is another question. Daniel, we want to hit him up. Next question.
Yeah. So we had somebody ask, will you need to update your leak detector to be able to pick up the A2L refrigerant, or will a normal 410A detector pick up the leak? Greg, I'll let you kind of go for that one.
Well, that is the one tool that we've talked about in the previous training, that you need to make sure that the leak detector you're using is certified to be working with A2L refrigerants.
Yes. One of the few tools that is specifically you need to update.
I know that there was some limitation placed on heated diode type leak detection systems. I know that Justin would be the absolute expert on all things A2L. So any questions you got, go ahead and send those his way. No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
there's some
correct.
limitations.
You cannot use a hot diode leak detector on A2L.
I got you. Well, are you aware of let's say is it ETL? Are there any governing bodies on that would be handing out these certifications for A2L ratings? Like as far as the tools and stuff, do you know?
It would all go through UL, so there would be the UL standards. But of course, there's multiple labs that do stuff. There's UL and ETL. But like a lot of our stuff is ETL certified, but it's all tested to the UL testing and certification. So if you pull up the ETL report on their site, it's going to show you the UL test number that it was tested to.
I gotcha. Okay.
Well, because I have to wonder about that myself, because you see a lot of stuff like a vacuum pump saying it's A2L rated. Well, when you're hooking up a vacuum pump, there isn't supposed to be any refrigerant in the system. So why does the vacuum pump need to be A2L rated? Or is it just a marketing blitz?
I'm not sure, and I'll tell you as far as I guess our overall opinion is I don't know enough about that. Related to that, there may be some additional testing standards that UL has developed to qualify these for A2L ratings. I mean, fortunately for you guys, we're not the ones that are selling you vacuum pumps, so we have no idea. But but yeah, I mean, to your point, generally speaking, you shouldn't have much in the way of refrigerant present in a vacuum pump when you're doing it. But I suppose there is a chance where you may have some, or something was isolated and then hey, somebody forgot and they opened up the valve and now all of a sudden you've got A2L refrigerant in this non-A2L rated vacuum pump. I've asked some other manufacturers, what they did in order to A2L rate some of these things, like the recovery machines and all, and it's additional insulation on the windings, spark-proof switches, and stuff like that. So I mean that's something to watch out for. Okay.
So there's another good question to come in there, Daniel. You want to spit that one off?
Sure. So it says, is there a testing unit available similar to the Daikin D checker that can test the operation of the system?
I'm so glad that comment came in, because that's one thing that just came up recently in some conversations I had internally, that one thing that we've done horribly bad at is advertising the service tools that GREE offers, and we're going to fix that. So we do have a single zone mini split tester. We do have a multi-zone mini split tester, and we also have a portable service tool for multi-pro as well. And the new R32 Flex unit is also going to have a service tool that you'll be able to use. So we are currently working on a marketing piece that's going to give you all that information on what those tools are. But currently we do have one for the mini split, multi-zone mini split, and for multi-pro. So rather than spit off all those numbers on this video, just if you're interested in one of those tools, please just give our tech service department a call at 888-850-7928, and we'd be happy to supply you with that part number for those tools.
Right. That's great. Yeah, and some of our systems, I mean, I never miss an opportunity to tell you about MultiPro. Some of our systems with the wired controllers that we have, like with MultiPro, all the testing data and all that you would like to see is available through the wired controller. Like in the case of our ducted units, that is included with your ducted units. So, you've got that on that. It's built in, basically a service tool. We do have an additional service tool that's used that makes it a little bit easier to see multiple zones at once, that kind of thing for MultiPro. But yeah, you can see all the pressures and temperatures, the compressor speed, the DC bus bar voltage. I mean, you name it. If your system has pressure transducers on it, you can also see the pressures that the system is looking at. So in that case, if you were working on a MultiPro system, do you need to hook up a gauge? Not unless you think that pressure system or the pressure sensor is faulty, right? If you show 0 on both, I'm going to go ahead and give you a hint. It ain't the pressure sensors. But you wouldn't have to connect a gauge at that point. So if you had some commercial job site, you had some VRF on it, you had some MultiPro on it, you can hook up your service tool. You don't have to, you don't have to be invasive. You don't have to mess with the system too much. You can just read the information from it. Maybe take a screenshot of it or write it down or whatever. You can prove that it was running just fine that day.
Not only that, if you ain't got 4 or 5 indoor units, you don't have to run around to each indoor unit. You can control the whole system from that portable service tool as well. Yep,
you absolutely can. So if you see somebody has, their main complaint is that their unit is turned off. I mean, we've all seen that. You can turn on the unit, you can turn it back on from the service tool. And what's great about that too is you can do that from inside or outside. So, if you don't have access to the indoor units for whatever reason, like you're locked out, I know we've seen that before, you could turn those units on from the outdoor unit. Or if it's raining outside or snowing or whatever, you can do that from the comfort of inside. So you can drink that coffee with the homeowner and
run diagnostics on the unit.
Diagnostics on
at the same time.
So,
oh, there you go. So you saved the day for them.
Save the day. There you go. So yeah, no, you're right. We do need to, get that information out there a little bit better. And any other questions or comments that are on there? We'll give us a last call on the questions or comments. Question mark icon at the right of your screen. Click that. Go ahead and comment or question. Otherwise, we will start to close it out.
James, let's make sure we remind them about the Tuesday AHRI where we're going to be broadcasting from.
Yeah, yep. Talking Comfort Live will be on a Tuesday from Orlando, not on a Wednesday.
On a Tuesday, not a Wednesday. Okay. Yeah, so you can scan that QR code that's on your screen right now and register for that one, so that you'll get your, get your email notifications and all the rest of that. If you do plan on attending the AHRI show in Orlando, please stop by the GREE booth. Come check out some of the new equipment that we've got coming, along with, equipment that's being sold all over the place. I mean, I actually, the first time attending was last year. Had a great time. I loved going to other people's booths and going and seeing what they got, It's fine. Taking pictures. No, I'm joking. but going around and seeing all the cool stuff. I mean, a lot of the tools, I love that. I don't get a chance to use them as much anymore, but holy crap, the tools they got now, man. Like stuff they did not have just not that long ago, automatic flaring tools and stuff like that. I had the flaring block and,
Yeah, you did every one of those flares by hand.
Yeah.
Yep. You didn't have a height gauge either, did you?
Well, it makes you strong, No, I didn't use a flare gauge, hope for the best. you know?
Yep.
Looks like another question came in, guys.
Okay.
So we got when installing the heat pump unit in the colder months, seeing that the unit needs to be charged and tested in the cooling mode correctly, will putting a blanket over the condenser, or is there some other type of way to simulate so the change of the unit, or so to change the unit correctly, charge the unit
Charge probably.
correctly
Yeah.
in the colder months? I think we spoke about this before, where you know
We've
how the
spoke
traditional
about
heat
this
pumps you can
many
just,
times.
yeah.
So, Daniel, you want to lead this one?
No, I'll let you take it, Greg.
Okay. So when it comes to GREE units, they're unlike unitary product because of the fact that they are inverter driven units. The charge amount on these units has to be weighed, because you're never going to know the exact speed of that compressor to know whether or not you need to add refrigerant or not add refrigerant. So covering it up with a blanket and trying to simulate a hot day is not going to do you any good. Not to mention the fact that also these have built-in low ambient control. All of them do. Now, you can look at the individual ratings for units or what they can run in cooling, what temperature they can run down to. But you have an inverter-driven compressor in there, but you also have an inverter-driven fan motor that will slow down in the cold climate and give you that low ambient capable cooling. So you
Stop.
shouldn't need to put anything over it to be able to get it to run in cool mode, as long as we're within the temperature range that unit is allowed to work for in cooling mode. So again, you got to weigh the additional charge. So make sure you're following the installation instructions, whether it be a flex or a mini split or multi-zone mini split or a multi-pro unit. The charging information is there to know how much refrigerant you need to add to that system for the length of line that you have. Anybody want to add on to anything I forget?
No, you covered it, Greg. I think that's the biggest thing to remember is it's got to be weighed in, and the best time to add your additional charge is after you've pulled your vacuum, especially if it's cold. If it's cold outside, go ahead and calculate it. Once you pull your vacuum, let your vacuum pull your additional charge in there before you open up that outdoor unit.
And then the last thing I want to cover there is about installing units in cold weather. When we've got stickers starting to be applied on these units, guys, you got to warm these things up. So they all have crankcase heaters in them. So the rule is, and we've got stickers, they're going to be applied on the box, but essentially the way the rule works is if it's above 50 degrees, you need a power applied to that unit for 1 hour before you start that unit. If it is between 32 and 50 degrees, apply power to that unit for 2 hours before you actually run that unit. And then from 14 to 32 degrees, you should have power applied to that unit for 4 hours before you start it up. And if it's below 14 degrees outside, you should have power applied to that unit for 8 hours before you start it up. The reason being is all of the majority of the charge is shipped in that unit. So the chances of liquid refrigerant sitting in that compressor is very likely. And if you start that unit up in cold weather, there's a good possibility the compressor is going to become damaged. It may still run, but it may not be efficient at all. So I can't stress enough, the amount of refrigerant these units hold, all stored in that outdoor unit, held in that cold climate, it's going to be trapped in the oil of that compressor. So do yourself a favor and warm that thing up. They have jackets around the compressor. They have a crankcase heater, and it's not a lot of heat. It's not a lot of power. But with that jacket around it, it holds that heat in around that compressor and will warm that oil in that compressor and get that refrigerant to boil and come out of there. Another thing to think about, if you've got an air coat on a mini split or multi-zone mini split or a multi-pro unit or even a flex unit, whatever that air is, and let's say you're waiting on a part and you may not be there for 2 more days, do not shut off the power to that unit. When you go back 2 days later and it's really cold, that whole time you need power applied to that unit. So when you get there, that compressor's still warm. You do whatever you got to do for the repair and you can go ahead and start that unit up. If you go out there and that thing's been sitting off for 2 days and it's 10 degrees outside, the liquid refrigerant would have migrated back into the oil of that compressor. And once you fix it and you start it up, now you're going to have a damaged compressor. And I've had comments before, it's like, well, we've never had to do that before. When it comes to heat pumps and you're running them in cold weather, you really should be doing that. And it kind of applies to any heat pump. So just take the extra little time to protect that unit, and you'll have less issues. Trust me on that.
Yeah. You know, we've sold a whole lot of heat pumps in places that not long ago, I would say, there's no business selling heat pumps up there.
Correct.
But, people still live there, despite my opinions. I always thought it was interesting that we might, a service technician that lives in an area like that, as cold as it is, disconnects their engine block heater and then drives to the job and then just starts the heat pump up, and then, has an issue with the crankcase heater and all the rest of that. Same basic thought process, except that we're pumping all the oil out of the compressor rather than just having really thick oil, that kind of thing. But I mean, there's viscosity changes and stuff like that too to consider. But like I say, again, you got an engine block heater, you're using it, super cold outside. Now you've got this heat pump, it's got a crankcase heater, same thought process. Get the heat on. I mean, really, when you think about it and how we normally do our installations, if you just start out with, I need to get power on this outdoor unit as soon as I can, and then think about all the work that you're going to be doing in the meantime, start there and then work your way back inside. All you're doing is kind of just changing the order in which you might normally do things. And that goes for any heat pump. If it's got a crankcase heater, or in some cases, some of them use winding heaters, using the voltage coming from the unit itself. If you want to ensure long life of that unit, long life of that compressor, people get get what they're paying for, that's something that we need to do. Now,
it's retraining your mind, because every job I ever did when I was out in the field, one of the last things you did was hook up power to the unit.
Oh, so, yeah. I clipped the zip ties, and I've wrapped up everything. Everything's ready to go. Push the disconnect in, turn the thermostat down to some ungodly temperature, and then go sit out in the truck and write an invoice. Totally understand that thought process. I really do. You can still do the same thing. Just get power to the outdoor unit first.
Then do the rest of your stuff, your line set, any ductwork stuff or whatever else you got to do. You can still run your low voltage wiring and all that stuff while the power is applied. Just be mindful of the fact that you have power applied and don't put your hands in the wrong place.
Right. If you're doing a retrofit and you're doing a dual fuel retrofit, get the furnace operating. You get the furnace operating so they got heat. Go ahead and get a power applied to the outdoor unit, finish up the rest of the work. I mean, the longer that we can have that power on, the better. That's just that's the way it goes. All right.
So when you start seeing the little orange triangle circle with the compressor warm-up rules, you'll know what we're talking
about. Any other questions, comments on the
there's one thing I want to bring up, just a kind of a correction to a previous statement I made. I had said previously that you cannot use a hot diode leak detector. That was incorrect. There are now A2L certified hot diode leak detectors that you can use. However, it's very, very important to read the user manuals, the instructions for those. There will be warnings in those that tell you not to use them in a combustible gas environment. So if there's a large, leak concern or something like that, don't use it in certain environments. And there are also a lot of steps to follow throughout that, up to and including using ventilation to provide a certain number of air exchanges in a space if you're using that leak detector. So yes, you can use an A2L hot diode leak detector, but if you do, please read the instructions, follow them carefully. Otherwise, if you don't want to do that, just use your standard an infrared leak detector or your soap bubbles. So,
yeah, no, that's great. It's a good point. Yeah, so if you turn your heated diode, it's rated for A2L, you turn it on before you go into the room and it starts to go off. Yeah, go ahead and get the ventilation going, all the rest of that. So if it goes off in the room that it's in, yeah, you're likely to have a high enough concentration somewhere else in that room that it could cause a problem for you. Yeah, I totally get it. So basically, I'm sure it's probably along the same rules as the discussions around electric heaters and all the rest of that. Pushing like a higher volume at a lower temperature, that kind of thing. So, yeah, okay. No, that's a good point. I appreciate your clarification on that, Justin.
So there was another comment that came in, James, and it says to stop knocking on the north. So,
Not knocking on the
I kind
north.
of agree with the guy. I'm agree with Jeffrey.
I'm
Some
not
people
knocking
like
on the
their
north.
snowmobiles.
Yeah,
And I think I would love a snowmobile just to do it one time, and then I want to come back down here where it's warmer.
Your wife wouldn't let you get on a snowmobile.
Yeah, no, she wouldn't.
yeah.
Well, she might if she got enough life insurance on me.
Currently, you're worth more alive than dead, but
and there's a potential problem there too. So
yeah, no, I'm not.
Maybe when I retire, she'll actually let me ride one.
Right. Well, to be clear, I'm not knocking the North. These are just things that I've heard and had to take into consideration that I had never had to consider ever before in my life. So I'm like, what? The gas doesn't work right? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
these are so close, but.
It's a different situation when you start supporting places where you don't live and you go, oh wait, I'd never thought, what do y'all do where it's cold? So, it's really eye-opening to support, north, south, east, west, all the way across the country and, parts of Canada. And you're seeing all kinds of different ways that, they've got some things to get past to install a unit in the winter.
Yeah, fortunately for me, I've got a member on the team, Steve, and he's from Iowa, and he's told me all kinds of things like heated driveways. Like, what's
Yeah. Like, whoa, why?
What does that do? Yeah.
So. Well, let's be real though. We make and sell cold climate heat pumps. We love the north.
Yes, we do.
Oh yeah, we absolutely do.
We need the north.
Yeah.
We want the North Pole. We're good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to
keep pushing north. Yeah. Well, if that's all for the questions and comments,
there's one other question that came in.
Okay.
Just asking. It says, I came in late. Will there be a video available for today's discussion to view?
Yes. It'll be posted.
That'll be on. You can find that on our YouTube channel at GREE Comfort, which is that's our YouTube channel. Be sure to check out other videos at our GREE Comfort channel. Also, please follow us on Instagram and TikTok if you use that, or have your helpers follow us on TikTok, or any of our other social media apps. We are pretty active on all of those. There you can find the latest information, and you might get tidbits and stuff that you never even considered. I watch them too, so you never know. Sometimes they're not me, sometimes it's informative.
So one last thing, James, our broadcast company here has got a copy of that sticker they can show real quick, just so everybody can see it.
There we go. And that's on the Tech 90 from Multipro, right? That's what it looks like there on that. I need glasses, ladies and gentlemen. But
I got my glasses on and I still can't read it, so it's all good.
So that's an example from YouTube.
But we've talked about it in multiple different trainings and stuff like that. So,
all right.
But I've talked about it so much I had it memorized. That's how I was able to spit off exactly what
I was gonna say you didn't have it memorized a few weeks ago, and now you do.
You have that memorized?
I do.
All right, well, congratulations, or I feel bad for you. One of the two.
Well, I should have it memorized. I wrote it.
Yeah, true.
So it's all good.
Okay.
But, just we know we have dealt with some compressor failures and stuff, and we know that it's been because of liquid refrigerant slugging them. So when we got on board with that's what was happening with the units, then we have to do our due diligence and share that with the contractors and give them a remedy to minimize and get rid of that issue. So, we're not just, making up rules as we go along. We're solving a problem. That's what that sticker is all about. We know for a fact that if those compressors are not warmed properly, you could very well end up with compressor damage. So we're not trying to make anybody's job more difficult or anything like that. We're trying to protect the equipment so you guys can have a happy install with the GREE equipment.
Right. Well, I believe that does it for this episode of Talking Comfort Live. As I stated previously, follow us on social media, like and subscribe, all that. So our show, again, will be on Tuesday of the first Tuesday next month, February, where we'll be broadcasting live from the AHR show in Orlando. So be sure to register for that and check that out, or stop by the booth if you're in Orlando. Until then, remember, at GREE, we're by your side.
By your side.